Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
I'm with Wajahat Habibullah, a very well-known voice on Kashmir affairs. As a former IAS bureaucrat, he served many years in Kashmir from the late 60s right up to the early 80s, then in the 90s again. During the Atal Bihari Vajpayee government, when he was an informal interlocutor, Mr. Habibullah has just been back from Srinagar, where he spent a few days during this clampdown that was imposed from August 5 after the abrogation of Article 370, and I will talk to him about the situation in Kashmir. Mr. Habibullah, welcome to The Print. My first question to you is about the situation in Kashmir since the 5th of August. You've just come back. What did you see?
Well, I can't answer since the 5th of August, but certainly I was there from the 15th onwards, and I can only describe the situation as being very, very sad. Kashmir is quiet, but it is the silence of the graveyard. Sadly, everything is shut. All the shops are shut. They open in the mornings, 6 to 9, 7 to 9, and then again in the evenings, 7 to 9, when people go and buy their household goods and so on and go back. The hospitals are open, the schools are open, but so far as schools are concerned, they're not running. School buses are running empty. The government has organized for school buses to run, but school buses are running empty. People are not sending their children to schools.
But what is it? Are they afraid of sending their kids to school? Are they afraid of opening their shops?
There's
what
a
is it
pervasive sense of fear.
About what? What are they afraid of?
But so far as the shops are concerned, that is a form of protest on behalf of the people. And despite the fact that, as you know, there is no internet, there are no mobile services, transport is also limited. This protest is so well coordinated that it happens on a timely basis in every village and town of the valley.
Across the valley?
Across the valley.
There is a civil protest.
There is a civil protest. And the interesting thing is, I think this lockdown was imposed in the anticipation of violent reaction. There has been some violence, but it's been sporadic in different areas. It's been reported, you would have heard of it also, mainly in the international press, but also by our own people. But the fact is that this is, for the first time, a complete, what is actually a Satyagraha, a complete closure of all business establishments and all shops. Now,
so as we celebrate the 150th anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi's birth, you're saying that the Kashmiris are undertaking a Satyagraha in the valley?
Well, they will not call it a Satyagraha, but de facto, that is what it is. And as I said, it is very well coordinated. And how do I know this? Because during the days that I was there, I spent a lot of time wandering around on the roads and streets.
Just by yourself?
By myself.
You had no security?
No security and no companion either.
So how was it coordinated? You're talking about...
I don't know. I don't know how they're coordinated. There is the story of a young person in one of the mohallas in Srinagar, a 15-year-old boy who circulated a story from mosque to mosque about how he was a member of Al-Qaeda and he was the commander of Al-Qaeda. When people started inquiring, the news spread like wildfire. When they started inquiring that who is the person, it's only a 15-year-old boy.
But was he a commander of Al-Qaeda?
No. I mean, I presume he was not, but there's no way of knowing. How do you confirm? Because there's no way of actually tracing how these rumors have actually spread.
Right.
But this communication was spread. And this is one case, of course, where it was all exposed.
So what about the restrictions? What are this clampdown that you're talking about? Nearly 2 months after the abrogation and since the clampdown, what is the situation like in terms of the restrictions in the Kashmir Valley?
In fact, some people have spoken to me who are within government and saying that every time we ease it slightly, something or the other happens and we have to reimpose it. Right. What do? I don't think there's any halfway house. You have to remove those restrictions.
No, but are there any restrictions? Because Home Minister Mr. Amit Shah over the weekend has said that there are no restrictions and all those that there are in the minds of people.
Well, as I told you, there are no cell phones. There are only landlines. Landlines are over pressure. You can contact, but if you try and
But as Mr. Shah said, you know, a mobile phone is not a fundamental right. It's not in the Constitution. So I'm sure people can live without mobile phones.
Whether it's a fundamental right or not, the question is that is a means of communication. And when you say that there are no restrictions, isn't removing the internet services and mobile phones a restriction?
No, but that's one point, that there may be no internet services or mobile phones, but there is no Section 144, there's no curfew, schools are open.
That is, curfews are imposed in various places and things. But I mentioned to you, there is a silent protest on behalf of the people. And this is what is leading to, you may say that is what is the restriction, or the restrictions imposed by the government. Public transport is not functioning. If you go there, you will see the streets, yes, cars are moving, people are moving around. You go to downtown. Now, no restriction. The Jama Masjid, which is the cathedral mosque, mind you, of Kashmir,
right,
is locked. Not only is it locked, even the compound around it, the compound fencing around it, is surrounded with concertina wires. You cannot enter the grounds of the Jama Masjid. That's not a restriction.
So there are no prayers being held there?
No.
For the last 2 months?
That's right.
But are people not asking why, or what are people saying?
Of course they're asking why, but the question is that asking why is not enough. And if your question is, are they not being able to say their prayers?
What about hospitals?
No. All the smaller mosques,
yeah,
they are functioning, yes.
Right.
Now, so far the hospitals are concerned, the hospitals are all functional, but the trouble is that the doctors are not able to quite communicate with their staff. I, in fact, had lunch with a family which runs a hospital in Karan Nagar, a very nice family whose son has just gone to the McGill University, just got admitted there, so I'd gone to see them. And they were telling me that, you see, if they want to get their compounder, if there's an emergency, and they want to get their compounder, they have to go personally, the doctor has to go personally to the house of the compounder to get him there, because there's no way of communicating with him.
But hospitals are staffed, there are medicines available.
That's
it's
right.
Not as if people, when they go to hospital, they don't have any medicines.
Yeah, that's
they
true.
Do get their medicines.
The medicines, as I said, foodstuffs and things are available. The chemist shops will be opening morning and evening. I'm sure if there was an emergency.
So what's the fundamental issue? The fundamental one is that the people do not like the abrogation of 370. Is that the real...
Now, the interesting thing is, the abrogation of 370 is not really a matter of great concern. It was of concern certainly to the mainstream parties, and that is probably why the government has locked up the entire leadership of the mainstream parties.
What's the reaction to that?
Which it has not done with Hurriyat
What's
leadership.
the reaction to the arrest of Farooq Abdullah, Omar Abdullah?
That is a kind of mixed kind of reaction. Increasingly, of course, particularly Farooq Abdullah, because he's a person who has been regarded as a bit of a friend. Many people were often annoyed with him.
Right.
They would often, but they felt that he was one of their own. And he's the son of the Sheikh. So there's an affection for Farooq, even amongst those who are not really, who are his political opponents. So the manner in which this has been developing so far as Farooq is concerned has won him a great deal of sympathy. But that is so far as the Hurriyat leadership is concerned. There are those who say, well, they deserve it because they didn't govern very well.
But you're saying that the abrogation of 370 is not a real issue.
It's not the real issue, because they have for a long time, and I know this perfectly well. When I was campaigning for the RTI, for the revision of the RTI law there, then many people said that, look, we are not able to get a law like this, which is there in the rest of the country, simply because of this Article 370. So that kind of thing. But the downgrading of the state from statehood to union territory and bringing it back under central rule, which they've had experience of from 1990 to 96 when I was commissioner there, it was under central rule.
Right.
Then it was president's rule, now it's this. That is what has caused huge resentment.
But why?
Because it's regarded as a humiliation. It's regarded as a humiliation. This is what they were saying is what we were criticizing our government for, was that it was restricting restricting our liberties, liberties that were guaranteed to us by our constitution. Now what has happened, that even those limited liberties which were granted by our constitution, which were in the form of being able to run a state of our own, even that has gone, and therefore we have completely lost faith in government.
But now that they are fully integrated into the Indian Union, they will have all the liberties that every Indian citizen has. So they shouldn't.
Why?
They have been integrated into the Indian Union, so they do have access to all those liberties.
They have access to all those liberties, but are they going to get them? How do they know they're going to get them? It's a union territory.
Right.
It's not been made into different
people in union territories also have access to all those liberties.
Yes, but they are under central government rule. They're not under self-rule.
Does that make such a big difference?
It does.
After all, the whole spirit of 370 had been pretty much diminished over the decades.
I was therefore, that's right. That's why 370 is not an issue.
But even coming back to just the so-called downgrading into a union territory, now does that mean, Delhi is a union territory, so many other parts of India are union territories, but people have access to all their liberties, to fundamental rights.
And in other union territories, the campaign has been repeatedly, and Kejriwal has agitated repeatedly for full statehood. So did Sheila Dixit.
Right.
But so the point is that they feel that no, what is of concern to them? They're very intelligent people. What is of concern to them? That matters like security, education, health and other things will now be the province of the state, of the unitary government. But security is now going to be in the province of the central government.
So what is the impact that's going to have? You were in Kashmir in the early 90s, soon after the problem started in 89 with Pakistan-supported insurgency.
That's right. And
how would you compare it with
What was one of the factors that led to it? You read the book of Mr. Vatali, who was a senior police officer of the time, just leading into the insurgency of 1989-90. He was IG Kashmir, and then he was top and considered for a long time one of the best police officers that they had. His son and then his grandson have gone into the police thereafter. Now, in his book, and this is what I feel is also true, increasingly in 1989-90, and after the installation of the VP Singh government at the centre, the local police was replaced with the CRPF. The local police was given smaller and smaller role to play in law and order. CRPF was given a larger and larger role. Now, deploying the CRPF and things is fine, and it's deployed all over the country, but it's usually sent to assist the local police.
Right.
In establishing law and order. In that case, they replaced the local police.
So what's happening today? How would you compare it with what's happening today?
In today's case, there had been a move all these years to give the local police a greater and greater role. This was initiated by Gary Saxena during the time that I was, in fact, commissioner. To give the local police a greater say in the running of the... And that had been to a large extent effective. Suddenly, you find that the situation is again reverted.
After the 5th of August?
After the 5th of August, even the local police now comes under the central government, not under the state government.
So what is the impact that's going to have?
Now, you see, the importance of the local police is that this is an instrumentality. What is lacking is that there's no one to go and explain to the people. Now, I was going around explaining to the people about the advantages of Panchayati Raj. I've been saying that...
And there will be Block Development Council elections on the 24th of October.
And I told them, I spoke to the people in government also about the fact that the Constitution of India makes the Panchayat an institution of self-government. I said, what have you been demanding all this time? You've been demanding self-government. You are now getting the self-government in the form of Panchayati Raj. Of course, their local law, and of course the Chief Secretary was telling me that the local law is a very good law. No doubt it's one of the better laws in the country on Panchayati Raj, but it does not even mention self-government. It does not even mention a finance commission.
So, Mr. Habibullah, let me ask you about the role that Delhi talks about, which is that Pakistan plays Pakistan plays a very negative role in the Kashmir Valley especially. But after the Imran Khan speech, Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan's speech at the UN, there were several reports saying that there was sloganeering.
Celebrations.
On the streets of Srinagar.
Jashan. The word they use is jashan. Celebration.
Why?
Very sad. That is why I say sad. So sad. The Kashmiris realize the difficulties that Pakistan is in. For a long time, a large section of them had, and I know this for a fact, had been saying, well, we are better off with India. These are the things that need to be done. If this is done, then if that is done, then it will be better. The whole thing has got reversed.
No, but what was the gesture about? What were the kind
because
of slogans that were heard?
They feel this. No, this is not Imran Khan's speech is not going to make any difference so far as they are concerned.
Sure.
It's not in our security forces are among the best in the world. We don't have to be afraid of anything. Then why are we worried about Pakistan? Pakistan has not been a friend of India since the day it was born. Am I wrong in that? But the fact is that how have we given Pakistan such an opportunity to so revive its support base inside Kashmir that people are actually celebrating? Surely, all these 70 years of experiencing India, being part of India, the reverse should have been the thing. People would have said, now look at Pakistan and how much better off we are. In fact, physically they are better off because they've got a lower poverty line than Pakistan has. They've got more educated people than Pakistan has. In so many ways, development has taken, there's been saying that there's been no development, there's been huge development in Kashmir.
But do you hear slogans now? But do you hear slogans now which say, Kashmir banega Pakistan?
Well, that is what has been happening in the recent past. This is what has been happening in the recent...
No, but is this because of Pakistan's supported insurgency in the
It's
valley?
not because that kind of sloganeering had not disappeared.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that in recent times, but one is hearing it in greater force in more recent times, and one is hearing what I said, the word jashan, the celebration, on a speech by the Prime Minister of Pakistan, who is not going to be able to make any difference here, and whose speeches are not taken terribly seriously.
But Pakistan is instigating its sleeper cells in the valley, and that's reprehensible.
Why does it have sleeper cells in the valley? How does it have sleeper cells in the valley?
Because there is support inside the Kashmir Valley.
Because our own police have been prevented from doing their job. Well, I was just finishing that part. The local police are all local people. They know exactly where everyone is or who is siding with whom. They don't have to start beating the people up or crushing them. They go and approach him and I say, I come and see you, Jyoti. Look, I know this is happening. Now please avoid this because you'll get yourself into trouble. That's the least I can do.
So the situation today is that if Pakistan is instigating insurgency,
it is because we have given them this opportunity. If we were among the people, why is it not able to do that in the rest of India? Why is it that people are not arriving in they have got sleeper cells all over Bombay and things, if they're so experienced? I've always considered Pakistan's principal terrorist agent, they're supposed to be their major intelligence agents, I'd call them terrorist agents, the ISI, as a bunch of incompetent nincompoops.
So how did they get to do what they're doing in the Kashmir Valley?
Isn't the answer obvious?
So perhaps so is it that it's Delhi that hasn't reached out enough? Because Delhi has been reaching out.
It's not a question of Delhi reaching out. It's a question that this is a number of things that have led to this. India has to reach out. Not so much governments. By now, the people of J&K and particularly of Kashmir should have been regarding themselves as Indians. And that was coming. That it started coming. Certainly more and more people were happy with the idea. But what have we done?
So let me ask you about the Atal Bihari Vajpayee government when you were an informal interlocutor, and then Prime Minister Vajpayee made the big speech in Srinagar in 2003 where he talks about insaniyat ke daire mein baat hogi. How would you compare 2003 with 2019, or is it an unfair comparison?
No, because I don't think it's unfair, but the fact is the present government says it's continuing Mr. Vajpayee's policy, and in fact the Honourable Prime Minister has mentioned these three words, Insaniyat, Kashmiriyat, Jamhuriyat.
And he also said ki gale lagakar unse baatcheet hogi.
That's another matter, but these are the three key. Now Jamhuriyat, this is hardly Jamhuriyat. That where you're having a state government, you're actually downgrading it to becoming a union territory. This is not Insaniyat, Kashmiriyat. These are the three issues which Atal Bihari Vajpayee actually sought to promote. And sought to promote them physically also. I am witness to that because I was actually working it on the issue with Mr. Mishra, who was initially the unofficial interlocutor. Yes, before Mr. K.C. Pant. But I also worked with Mr. K.C. Pant when he was appointed official interlocutor.
So how would you compare what happened then with under Atalji's government and what's happening now?
There we were reaching out. Here we are retracting. That is basically the difference.
Mr. Habibullah, thank you so much for speaking to The Print.
Thank you.
This is Jyoti Malhotra for The Print. Please continue to watch our YouTube channel. It's live and buzzing.